All right, back now on this post-election edition of The Pulse. It is People, Power, and Politics. We are breaking down the results of the 2024 vote. Karen Dumas with the No BS News Hour and Troy Mayor Ethan Baker are in the hot seat. Good to see both of you here tonight. We talked about, I think it was about close to a month ago with the two of you on this set about decency, decorum, civility, and making sure that we can still maintain that despite who wins. We also talked about what might happen in this election. Karen, you've been pretty good about your predictions, and this was a prediction that you said on this set right here.
Yeah, and actually I said it on the same set in 2016 that I thought that, you know, nobody should go into the election assuming or in a presumptuous capacity for the outcome, and that's what we got this time as well.
I want to talk to you a little bit about the African-American vote in the Detroit vote. Very important. We'll get to that in just a second. Troy Mayor Ethan Baker, you're a Republican, although you're a nonpartisan mayor, but you're a Republican. When you watch this from a strategy point of view, how would you grade both campaigns, the Harris camp and the Trump campaign?
Well, yeah, that's a really good question. You know, obviously, the candidate who won probably had the better campaign, you'd think, right? In hindsight, a lot of what the Trump team did was really effective, and as undisciplined as he can be as a candidate, it appears his team was really locked in on what they wanted him to do in their messaging and their plan. But the same goes for the vice president. I actually thought the vice president was very consistent with her campaign messaging throughout. Maybe not her messaging. She did kind of go back and forth between joy and democracy and turning the page. And she struggled a little bit. I think that might be what caused some people not to vote for her.
Well, so let's talk about that, because you know, it's good to feel good. We all want to feel good about somebody that could be the next leader of our country. But at some point, you don't want to just hear the superlatives and the hyperbole. You want to hear about policy. Do you think the vice president was able to convey that in a consistent way?
No, I don't, and that's not necessarily her fault. I think she had a really short window, 107 days. I think the difficulty in the process is that she had zero room for error, and her team knew that. I mean, people started voting at the end of September. So by the time she had the nomination, she couldn't go too far down a path, because if she messed up too badly, and I'm not saying her personally, but if something really broke, it would be really hard to correct it in time. So I think she felt, and the team felt, she really had to stay kind of in a box and stick with some superlatives, like you said, and just hope for the best, really.
Well, I said this on this show, you can't fact check hope. If I ask you a question about how you want to fix the economy and you answer it with a story of hope, I can't fact check that. I can fact check policy. This is a vice president who's been with Biden for 3.5 years. That hurt her or helped her, Karen?
Well, I think that it didn't allow, how this transition, how she got thrown into the campaign, didn't allow her the opportunity to find a platform for herself. And so she's asked to distance herself from the person who is still her boss. And so she didn't get any cover from Biden or from the Democrats. It was just, okay, go out and let's try to make everybody feel good. And we talked about that before too. And so I don't think there was really an opportunity for her to definitively deliver her platform, or for people to see who she really was. You know, she's a vice president, so we've not really seen a lot of her in the past 3.5 years. Who is she? What does she stand for, other than supporting and backing the president's agenda?
The things that she stands for, though, were those things that really resonated with everybody? Because clearly middle-class folks may sit back and say, hey, I want to be a first-time homeowner. That $25,000 loan could be something good for me. However, if you are low income and sitting in a neighborhood, by the way, not just in Detroit, but in Allen Park or in anywhere in our area, that doesn't necessarily resonate, right?
Well, not necessarily, but I think that too often the Democratic playbook has been more performative than it should be, and, you know, trying to cater to a demographic that you really don't know much about, you know. So some things that she said came off a little bit disingenuous. You know, I'm washing collard greens in the bathtub, you know, kind of like Hillary Clinton when she had the hot sauce, and, you know, that kind of stuff. I think people are beyond that now. I think people want to know, what is it that is going to happen that you are going to champion for that will make an impact for me and my family on a day-to-day basis? You know, working at McDonald's, and that has nothing to do with anything. And so I think that kind of fell flat, and we see that a lot, especially, you know, with our Democrats here in the state.
Well, you've taken umbrage with that before.
Yes, I have.
With a lot of people, including our own governor and others who have come out with their Cartier sunglasses.
You saw Jocelyn Benson, and she's out doing the hustle and the wobble. Like, stop that. You know, I want to know that you are an effective leader. You know, the care and the compassion are great, but again, we need effective policy. And people, you know, they showed up for the concerts and that kind of thing. So people showed up to the party, but they did not show up for the party.
And that was the party at the polls, which is the most important one of all. Ethan Baker, the mayor of Troy, talk a little bit about Donald Trump from what you observe as a Republican watching this whole thing unfold. Project 2025. The fears that people have about reproductive rights being taken away and so on and so forth. Is that something that you think is a legitimate concern?
I think it's a legitimate concern for anybody. If it's out there and people are talking about it, that makes it a legitimate concern. And candidates are going to use that, and leaders are going to hear it, and they play with people's emotions. I mean, I hate to say that. Not all of us do it. Some of us really try to do what's right, but there are people who will capitalize on those feelings of fear and work with those things. And obviously, there's a ton of people, young women especially in this country right now, who woke up this morning terrified that they are not going to have the same freedoms that their moms and grandmas had. And that's tragic. And I think we can do a lot as Republicans, even though, again, I'm in my nonpartisan role. But Republicans, and especially men, can say, listen, we recognize that there are true fears related to that, and let's do everything we can to assuage those fears, because it's Project 2025, I think, is something that the Heritage Foundation, they've been working on a version of that document for 45 years. There's been a version of it every campaign. But this year, the Democrats successfully made an issue out of it, which I didn't think they were going to be able to do when I first heard them doing it. But we have to do everything as leaders, as Republicans, as men, as women, to say, okay, let's focus on what's really important. Let's make sure, if those are true fears, let's do what we can as advocates to not let them come into play.
Karen, we have about 15 seconds left. Big concerns that you have with the Trump presidency?
Well, that he is just going to almost have unchallenged authority. I think that's going to be a concern. But, you know, his speech last night was surprisingly, you know, positive, and I'm going to watch and take. We don't have a choice. I mean, this is a person that was elected. So as we talked about before, I think it's in everybody's, you know, best interest to just see what we can do. On the other hand, we have to wake up every day and commit to being better people for our families, our communities,
and our neighbors,
and do it that way.
Karen and Ethan, it's always good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Come back again on The Pulse. We always enjoy having the two of you together. Thank you. Well, a lot of Democrats are licking the wounds after President-elect Trump's landslide win, but some are saying Democrats overestimated Detroit's turnout. We're talking with the journalist behind that article, Malachi Barrett from Bridge, Detroit. We'll be watching The Pulse here on Fox 2. Thank you, guys. You did a great job, both.